Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Google Plus Developers Live, targeted sharing with interactive posts. I'm Joanna Smith, and I'm a developer programs engineer for Google Plus.
And I'm Silvano Luciani, and I'm also a developer programs engineer for Google Plus. And today, what we want to show to you is how to use interactive posts to help your user to bring the people they care to your app.
So interactive posts help your users prompt their friends to take specific actions in your app from a Google Plus post. In addition to the standard content links, interactive posts introduce a prominent call to action button that's designed to drive actions in your app from users in the Google Plus stream. And so we're going to bring those users into your app from our own. And this is a really powerful tool for you because clicking these buttons brings recipients directly not just to your app, but within your app, to a specific place in the app to perform a specific action. Maybe they want to listen to a particular song that was shared instead of just listening to music in general. And so, Silvano, do you want to go ahead and show us how easy it is to do this?
Of course, it's very easy. Like all the code that you need is in our developers doc at developers.google.com/plus/web/share/interactive. It's easy to find.
So simple.
You can find the snippets that will allow you to load our JavaScript into your page and then render the interactive post button into your page. But the first step is to create a project in the Google API console.
As always, this is your step one. Go to the API console. And of course, we have explicit instructions for how to get started with this.
So we can show this to you. The API console is at developers.google.com/console. You can create a new project using the select drop down on the top left corner. We will call this project Demo GDL, and this name is just for you to remember what this project is about. Let's wait a second. So now we are in the familiar service list, and we can choose which APIs we want to use in this project. So in our case, for the interactive post, what we need is the Google Plus API. And let's click on to activate it. Remember that the first time that you use a specific API, when you do this, you will see the terms of service of the API, and you will have to accept the terms of service before actually start using it.
And we recommend that you actually take a few moments to read that instead of just clicking through like you are probably inclined to do, because we do hold you accountable to our terms of service. We try to do what's right for our users in those, and our spam and abuse team probably will find you.
Yeah. So now we can go to API access and create a node to client ID. And it's easy as clicking on this big blue button. At this point, product name, I will use again GDL demo, but here use something that is meaningful for you and for the user, because this is the branding information. So it's what will be shown to the user in the consent dialog when they go through the about process. So the same is with the logo. If you have a logo, use a compelling logo for your product, and also add the homepage URL where the user can check more details about your app. In the next window, what we do is choose an application type for our client ID. In our case, is a web app. And what we have to do now is add options for our site or host name, for the JavaScript origins, and the redirect URI. Be careful with the scheme, as always. If you're using HTTP, select HTTP, and if you're using both HTTP and HTTPS, use 2 entries for both schemes. Our demo is published on localhost, so all we need to do is add localhost here, and we can now create the client ID.
And so now that we have our API console ready to go and all set up, it's really very simple to get started with interactive posts, because once again, we provided code snippets in our documentation that you can just copy directly.
Yeah, going back to the page in the developer docs, there is adding the share button to the page. So if you click the link, you go to the snippet that it's including our JavaScript in your source code. So let's copy and paste this first. And then the second step is actually copying and pasting pasting the code that will render the button in your page.
So while he's copy and pasting this, I think we should take a moment to go over some of these attributes, right?
Yes, so the first one that you can see is the class, and is G-interactive post. This is telling our JavaScript that after it has loaded, all the elements on the page with this class needs to be rendered as interactive post. The styling, you can choose the styling for the button. We will just attach the behavior to element with this class. Content URL is a URL that points to the object that you are sharing, and that URL needs to contain the schema.org markup that is describing the object, so a title, a description, an image, and this will populate the snippet like a standard share. Content deep link ID is the same, but for mobile apps.
So let's take a moment to talk about what deep links are before we go on about the actual ID for them. Because if you haven't used deep linking before, you might be a little confused here. But what deep linking does is it allows the Google Plus app on a mobile device to direct clicks on an interactive post into the mobile app for your users, right? So if the user has your app installed and they click on a deep link, they'll be taken straight to your app, but also within your app. And if they don't already have your app installed, they get prompted to go ahead and install it, which is pretty powerful for, as far as the user experience is concerned. But if you plan to use deep linking in your mobile apps, you need to create a client ID for each of your platforms that all live in the same API console project. And that's a really key thing to remember. They need to be in one API console project, but you'll have one for each platform like Android or iOS. And then the Google Plus app is going to magically route all of these clicks to the appropriate place. So if you have your deep link set up for both Android and iOS, we're going to figure out where to send the user. We're going to take it from there and handle all that logic for you, which is also pretty powerful.
Very good. So, and back to our parameters, we have the client ID, which will replace soon with the client ID from the project that we just generated. And this is because we need to know your app, that your app is accessing the JavaScript. The cookie policy, you might know this from the sign-in button. This is a complex parameter. Check the docs on the website, and we will have a GDL on this soon. But for now, just use single host origin or check the documentation that is explaining to you which one is the value that you should use. Prefilled text. This will allow your app to pre-populate the text in the snippet so that you can send the user a message that is meaningful and compelling, and that is actually letting them interact with your app. The call to action label, that's what will appear as text in the button, the call to action button, which is what you are trying to engage external user for.
And where you see the word create here, we actually have over 100 verbs pre-defined and ready to go. And so you can find that list on documentation. But the reason we have all of these verbs already chosen is because we've also localized them, so that depending on your user's location, we'll make sure it's in the right language for your user out of any of our 60 supported languages. So that's a pretty cool thing too.
The call to action URL, this is where the user will land if they click the action on the interactive post. And the call to action deep link ID is the same from the mobile app. So as we were telling, is this way of actually having them go to a specific part of the app where they can do an action for which their friends call them into your app. So now all we need to do is get from the Google API console the client ID that we have just generated, copy it, paste it back to our source code, and now we can see a demo of the interactive post.
Before we demo, can I specify the prefilled text and the verb?
Of course.
Okay, so I wanted to say Joanna is the best.
Joanna is the best.
Because I am, let's not argue. And then the verb should be to confirm, because everybody should know that I'm the best and agree with that statement.
I do agree.
All right, we're good then. No arguments here, which means nobody's arguing.
So now, if we load the demo, this big gray button that you can see, as we said, this is in your control. You can style it as you want. We have some branding guidelines that will tell you what you can do and what you can't do. But aside from that, it's all yours. When you click it, it's going full screen for the content. And now we can see the interactive post on the page. And as you can see, the text has been pre-filled with what Joanna wanted.
Because Silvano's app wants to tell the world how cool I am.
And the call to action is now a confirm. And now I can tell Joanna's Meet demo, for instance, or anyone else to actually go myself. I will do it with myself.
You should all go talking.
Confirm that Joanna is the best. And in that way, they will start using our app and check how awesome is the app is.
All right. So the other cool thing is you saw how Silvano was choosing his recipients, but you as a developer can choose some of those recipients for your users directly. And what you can do is you can actually pre-fill up to 10 direct recipients. And what that means is that those 10 people are going to get a notification. And that's a really powerful tool to help drive engagement for you. And the other thing that's really cool about this is you can add recipients by either Google Plus ID or by email address. So just as in a normal share, when you can send somebody a post through email if they're not on Google Plus, you can still do that same thing as a developer to pre-fill that email address. So let's go ahead and look at how incredibly simple it is to get this going.
Yeah, I have a simple PHP that is using a new function that we added to the Google Plus API, which is people.list. That will allow you to get a list of the users in the circle of the user visible to your app. And this is the code that is showing how actually easy it is to call this function from the Google API PHP client library. We need to call list people. Me, as you know, is the keyword to say that we want this call for the user that is logged in now. Visible is to indicate that we want the collection of users that is visible to this app. And I'm also using an optional parameter, which is order by, and setting it to best. This means that the order of the friends will be by interaction. So in the first places, I will get the people with whom the user interact the most.
Now the other thing to remember here is that we're not exposing the user's circles. We're just providing a flat list of people that the user has added to a circle that they've shared with you through the consent dialog, right? And so when we order by best, it's not the best of the circle or that, it's best overall from any interaction, but also that entire list is going to be a flat list for our developers so that we can enable our developers and protect our users at the same time.
Yeah, we don't expose any circles information to the developers. Then, you can add a maximum of 10 recipients, and when you have a list of multiple recipients, it becomes a comma-separated list of either Google Plus IDs or email address. So in this case, what I'm doing in the PHP sample is just taking the first 10 and then building an array and then imploding that array to a comma-separated list. And we can use it. We need to add the parameter data recipients to our markup, and just print the string as value of the parameter. So back to the new sample, which is the PHP. As you can see now, the recipients are pre-populated with a list that comes from my demo page, and those are listed in order the friends I interact the most with.
So you might be used to seeing this list come back alphabetically, but because we use the order by best parameter, it's ordered by interactions like we explained. And so depending on what your app is, either one of those might be the right choice for you. All right. The other thing I want to do now that we showed you the demo is before we go, I want to take a look back at the attributes that we were showing off earlier. And I want to talk about why some of them look really familiar. Like things like cookie policy we've seen in our sign-in button too. And so can we take a look at the similarities?
Yeah, so there is a number of attributes that the interactive post inherits from the sign-in. And this is because, as you've seen it briefly in the first example, I had to go through the authorization dialog. This is because your user needs to be signed into Google before they can use an interactive post. So if you have an app where you have both sign-in and interactive posts, what you want is to have the same attributes for the sign-in, because you want to replicate the same behavior. You want to have access to the same scope. You want to have the same type of access online or offline, whether it's your choice. You want to call the same callback to perform the same action on the app. So for example, in PhotoHunt, which is our end-to-end sample application, in the main page, in the landing page, we have a sign-in button, but we also have an interactive post button, invite your friends, that can be used to invite friends. So at that point, if you click invite your friends before signing in, we want to go to the same callback that will then hide the sign-in button, show your profile image, show your profile picture, and all the other personalization that we apply to the page. Show photos from your friend, show the list of your friend, and so on. So this is very important, that you do the same things and the same flow, whether you are signing in using the sign in button or the interactive post button. One difference is you can't do over-the-air install when you're using interactive post. So there's no app package name that will allow you to specify this is my app and this is what I want to install on your Android device when you sign in to my application. So if you really want that, what you have to do is don't show interactive post before the users have signed in.
Right.
Sign in and then show and apply all the interactive posts in your page.
And what we showed you when we were explaining some of this is our page from our documentation that really goes over these parameters. But if you want to learn more, or maybe refresh some of this, because we did talk about a lot of things in a really quick time frame, you can go to our documentation at developers.google.com/plus, and you can read to your heart's content. And it'll definitely help maybe clarify some of these things. And of course, if you have any questions or if you kind of just want to talk about some of this stuff, check out our Google Plus developers community. We hang out in there every day, and we also have a lot of really amazing external developers in that community who, they foster great conversations. They're bouncing ideas off of each other, and they're discussing things that they find with our API. And it's a pretty powerful place to maybe get some questions answered or just make some good connections. So check it out.
Or if you like to see more codes and more samples, we are on GitHub, github.com/Google+. You will find oral quick starts, which are the samples that get you up in 5 minutes on different languages like Java, Python, PHP, Ruby, Go, JavaScript, and maybe I think I'm forgetting one. And also we have photo C#. Yeah, that's it. And also we have photo which we mentioned is our end-to-end sample application that is showing you all the functionalities that we recently introduced with Google Plus Sign-In. We have a backend written in Java that comes bundled with the JavaScript frontend, and we also have 2 mobile frontends, one Android and one iOS. And also we are every day on Stack Overflow, so if you have any question, just ask your question with the tag Google-Plus, and we will reply as soon as we can, which is usually one afternoon, maybe
it's
1 hour.
Usually the same day.
2 hours.
And then, of course, if you have an issue, if you find something that's wrong with our API, let us know in our issue tracker, or if you have a really great idea for a feature request. And if there's already one in there that you like, you can star it, and you'll get updates, and it'll let me know that it's important to more developers. For example, the order by best parameter I discovered through an issue report in the issue tracker was broken, and we fixed that just recently. And so it can be a really powerful tool for you to communicate something to us that's not quite right, or something that you would really like to see. So definitely check that out, and you can always let us know how you're feeling about it by talking about it in the community. But it can be a really powerful tool. And that's all that we have for you today. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the community.
Bye.